you, you know what they say about divorcees, right, Stan? Can the toady divorcee, Stan Seder, Sam Seder, can he defend Anthony Fauci? I don't think so. Let's start off in this timeline. We're going to start off with Easter Sunday 2020, where he is being interviewed by the zombie Al Sharpton.
But as soon as it became clear that there was community spread, which means that it isn't just a travel-related case, that there are cases that are in the community under the radar screen, then it became clear that we were in real trouble.
When was that? When was that?
Well, that was probably towards the middle to end of January.
Okay. And what did you begin advising the administration and those authorities that we were, in fact, seeing something different here and this could be a major problem at that time?
You bet. And then that's when it became clear that there are a couple of ways of addressing that. You could either prevent or try and block the influx of new cases from out of the country, and already cases that come in from China, to try and say, that's it, we got to stop that, because now we already have cases here. And then it switched to Europe. And when Italy had their outbreak, it became clear that that became a danger. So that's when cases were cut off from coming in from Europe and then ultimately the UK. But by that time, we had enough cases in our own country that the ability to do the containment slipped then into the need for mitigation.
Yeah,
and we saw what happened in New York.
Okay, that makes me ask, again, check the link underneath the video where I've got all this. The day before the CDC knew about the first case of coronavirus, COVID-19. First case happened on January 20th. CDC knew about it on January 22nd. In an interview with Greg Kelly, Fauci said, Kelly says, bottom line, we don't have to worry about this one, right? Fauci said, well, obviously you need to take it seriously and do the kinds of things that the CDC and the Department of Homeland Security are doing. But this is not a major threat for the people of the United States, and it is not something that the citizens of the United States right now should be worried about. And it's weird how he went into full frontal lobotomy lockdown mode. That was January 21st. So that was before the CDC knew about the first case. February 3rd, Fauci told CNBC, quote, it's still an evolving situation. We don't know exactly where it's going to go, what the pattern is. But these guys are the smartest people in the room. But clearly right now, at least the number of cases are accelerating. On February 29th, 2020, Fauci said, we do not need to change anything we're doing on a day-to-day basis. But if the you-know-what was going to hit the fan, why didn't you tell us? Unless you really didn't know in your Monday morning quarterbacking, at which you are. On March 9th, 2020, Fauci said that if you are young and healthy, in other words, if you're not an old cigarette smoker like Dave, if you're young and healthy, you can go on a cruise. Well, if the you-know-what was hitting the fan in middle to late January, why not? Why didn't you say that? Community spread was known on February 29th, 2020 in Washington State. Then you had his, where Fauci was used as a punching bag, metaphorically speaking, by Jim Jordan at a House Select Subcommittee on the coronavirus pandemic. And it's the hour and 15 minute and 30 second mark to the 1 hour 22 minute mark. Got himself into trouble because he previously said, this was on April 2nd, he said, this House Select Subcommittee meeting was later, but he previously said on April 2nd that he didn't understand why every state wasn't locking down or ordering its plebs to shelter in place. Got himself into trouble with Jim Jordan for refusing to state explicitly that the protesters could or are spreading the virus. Yet churches are prohibited from having services. De Blasio was shutting down parks and churches due to the virus, but was out protesting with Black Lives Matter, and Fauci refused to condemn the protesters. Fauci at one time was poo-pooing masks, as you know, and now looks at them as a savior of mankind. If Fauci is concerned about, quote, groups of folks, and he is blabbering aloud about why he doesn't understand why every state is locking down, then why couldn't he tell Jim Jordan that we can limit protesting? Fauci didn't actually say it, but he did insinuate that protesting has the capacity to spread the virus. If Fauci refuses to opine on limiting anything, why did he want all states to lock down? And I added this note. And why is he now, that was September 11th, why is he on September 11th saying we need to hunker down this entire fall and winter, but he's not going to opine on limiting anything? Okay. A shelter-in-place order similar to the one ordained in New York will certainly limit a lot of activity. Fauci also said this. This was in his testimony to the committee that day when he sparred with Jim Jordan. CDC is also working with partners to develop guidance and tools. Stools. Almost said stools. I'm thinking of Fauci and I'm thinking of stools. Maybe a stool sample. CDC is also working with partners to develop guidance and decision tools to assist state and local officials and other stakeholders in adjusting mitigation strategies. CDC has been recommending that people wear cloth face coverings in public settings around others outside of their households. There is increasing evidence that these masks help prevent people who have COVID-19 from spreading the virus to others, as long as you don't touch your face. However, on March 8, 2020, Fauci said, quote, when it comes to preventing coronavirus, public health officials have been clear. Healthy people do not need to wear a mask to protect themselves from COVID-19, end quote. There's no reason to be walking around with a mask, infectious disease expert Dr. Anthony Fauci told 60 Minutes, while masks may block some droplets, Fauci said, they do not provide the level of protection people think they do. Wearing a mask may also have unintended consequences. People who wear masks tend to touch their face more often to adjust them, which can spread germs from their hands. And I've watched this, as I said, one time when I was down in Des Moines, didn't record anybody because blotting out their face kind of, doesn't show them messing with their mask, but there was a lot of that. Also a reference there, the CDC and WHO had a little battle and some flip-flopping on who should wear a mask or whether a mask should happen or not, or should be worn or not. Here's one more quote for you. February 28th, 2020, in the New England Journal of Medicine, quote, this is Fauci, quote, on the basis of a case definition requiring a diagnosis of pneumonia, the currently reported, remember this is February 28th, the you-know-what was supposedly already hitting the fan for a month. On the basis of a case definition requiring a diagnosis of pneumonia, the currently reported case fatality rate is approximately 2%. In another article in the journal, Guan et al. Report mortality of 1.4% among 1,099 patients with laboratory-confirmed COVID-19. These patients had a wide spectrum of disease severity. If one assumes that the number of asymptomatic or minimally symptomatic cases is several times as high as the number of reported cases, the case fatality rate may be considerably less than 1%. This suggests that the overall clinical consequences of COVID-19 may ultimately be more akin to those of a severe seasonal influenza, which has a case fatality rate of approximately 0.1%, or a pandemic influenza, similar to those in 1957 and 1968, rather than a disease like similar to SARS or MERS, which have had case fatality rates of 9 to 10% and 36% respectively. And then I noted, read the entire article. There are a lot of ifs in there. And again, I have to mention, if we were in real trouble in the middle to late January, why was Ferret Face telling us on February 29th that we don't need to change anything on a day-to-day basis? Then you had the New England Journal of Medicine quote I just read. And on March 9th, 2020, telling young, healthy folks to go on a cruise, only to totally burn that down the next month, wondering aloud why every state isn't going into lockdown. Another one, Tom Woods mentioned this. Fauci said we could relax social distancing once we have no new cases and no deaths. And Tom Woods said, translation, they have no exit strategy, which they do not. This Fauci and his crew, it's going to be lockdown central for as much as the country as possible, as long as possible. So we should thank Donald Trump for that, because he's resisted and he calls for a national lockdown, which may or may not be struck down by the Supreme Court. But with him in there, we won't have to worry about it. And if you have a Republican governor like I have, well, we're not doing as badly as, say, California or New Mexico. So I think that covers it. Joe Biden, also in there, Ron Klain contradicted himself several times. And Joe Biden Monday morning quarterbacked the COVID-19 too. Ron Klain was talking about, we don't have a COVID-19 epidemic, we have a fear epidemic. And then Joe Biden was holding rallies until the WHO declared it a pandemic. So Joe Biden didn't know anything. He's Monday morning quarterbacking it, and he's senile too. And so is Ron Klain may not be senile, but he's an idiot. So yeah, Ron Klain also said, go out, urged Americans to go out and buy a meal and go shopping. So, and this was all before. Finally, when the WHO declared it a pandemic, then they started saying, well, Trump should have done something. Well, he did try to stop all travel from China. Whether that worked or not, which it didn't work completely, didn't work as well as it should have. It should have gone through Congress too, but he was at least trying that. But all these Monday morning quarterbacks, these are like the people who go down hillside after a battle and they kill the wounded, so they didn't do anything. So there you go. Anthony Fauci is indefensible, the smartest man in the room. I think he's been a bureaucrat too long. I'm sure he was a brilliant doctor at one time. He's been a bureaucrat too long. He's in over his head. I think he needs to leave. So you've got him making absolutely these so-called experts. What would we do? I remember Tom Woods said so many times, what would we do without experts? Completely contradicting themselves if you follow the timeline of what they're saying. It's actually quite maddening. So Anthony Fauci is indefensible. Have a nice day, and don't thank me now.